Can you believe that it's been an entire year since I first started tracking my wardrobe and every single thing I wear every day? A whole year! That is so much data we have to play with. And so today we're going to go through it. We're going to take a look at everything. I did do one of these videos at about the 6-month mark. So if you'd like to kind of take a look at where I was at back then, I'll leave a link to that in the cards above for you. But without further ado, we're just going to dive right into taking a look at the stats of both the composition and the usage of my wardrobe in this past year. Let's start off strong by taking a look at the category breakdown of my entire wardrobe. So as with our 6-month check-in, and honestly, everybody else that I've seen do this same video has had the same top category. 37% of my wardrobe is tops. That's 76 tops. Now, to be fair, we can't break this category down anymore in these statistics. So that incorporates anything from singlets and t-shirts that I wear in summer to like lightweight knits up to jumpers. So it is both a very broad category. Also, I think tops are the kind of thing that you often do change out the most. They need the most washing, especially when it comes to summer wear, I would say. So it's definitely a very big category, a very broad category. And although 76 tops does sound like an awful lot of tops to have, it also makes sense why this is my top category. Coming in at second with 22% of my wardrobe is bottoms. So again, that's everything from pants, shorts, not that I really have any shorts, and skirts. Everything you wear on the bottom half. You get it. You know what this is. So I have 46 bottoms. That is a lot. That is an awful lot of bottoms. But as I've said time and time again, I love pants. I love skirts too. I do have a handful of skirts and I'm happy to have them, but pants, I just feel like pants make an outfit. They really do. Accessories is our next category, coming in at number 3. And I think that this one has been bumped up a little bit since the last time we checked in. I now have 21 items in my accessories, which is 10% of my wardrobe. Now, I know for a lot of people, 21 accessories, for some it might sound a lot, but I do feel like in our age of accessorizing and layering and all of that sort of stuff, 21 isn't a huge amount. I think for me, where I have really expanded in the last year or so is hats. I've really gotten into wearing hats. It started out as a practical kind of consideration, especially as we were getting out birding and stuff more. I wanted to have some sun protection, but it's kind of moved beyond that. And now I'm obsessed with hats. And I have, I think, seven hats in my little collection. And a year or two ago, I think I probably had one that I like barely ever wore. So definitely I've been padding out my hat collection and I'm very happy with where it is at the moment. The other items in this category are mostly like belts and scarves. And I have just started being able to add a few me-made items to this category because I've gotten into knitting in the last couple of months. And so I have currently two me-made items logged in my index, and both of those are accessories. One is a pair of fingerless gloves and one is a scarf, my Stay Toasty scarf, which is the pattern is by Veronica Lindbergh. I love this thing and I've been wearing it so much. So even though I don't see myself becoming somebody who just like layers and layers and layers the accessories, I do like that I've got a little bit more versatility in this category than I did before, and I'm really liking adding some me-made items. That's a lot of fun. Adds a whole new layer of like personality to a wardrobe, I think, and I am looking forward to adding more as I continue to make them. In fact, I've got another scarf on my needles right now, which is nearing completion. So I'll be excited to add that very soon. Our next category is shoes, and I have 19 pairs of shoes, which accounts for 9% of my wardrobe. Shoes is another category that I love. It's also a category that I'm willing to kind of spend a bit of money on. I think especially someone with chronic pain and hypermobility, having good, comfortable shoes and good, comfortable shoes that I can switch up day to day depending on what I'm doing is just essential, to be perfectly honest. Like, yes, I like having cute shoes to really kind of make an outfit, but I also just need a range of shoes that I'm going to feel good in and that is going to help me manage my chronic pain. So shoes is another category that I feel very passionately about, and I love my shoes. Our next category is outerwear. I have 16 items of outerwear, which is 8% of my wardrobe. I do have a lot of outerwear because I'm very picky about the temperature I'm at, and living in a place like Melbourne, like we do get pretty cold here, obviously not like freezing kind of temperatures, but as someone who grew up in the tropics, it gets pretty cold, I think. But then it also gets pretty warm in the summer. So I like to have a good variety of different kind of weights and different temperatures essentially in my outerwear. But then also, as somebody who likes color and likes my outerwear to look good with the outfits that I'm wearing, I also like to have a few options when it comes to color within each weight category. I will say that I have intentionally chosen to categorize a few items that probably aren't considered outerwear as outerwear in Indyx because that's how I wear them. For example, I have a few button-up shirts that I don't wear as button-up shirts. I wear as outer layers, particularly kind of like light outer layers in summer. And so this category includes everything from those lightweight button-ups that I wear mostly in summer, all the way up to some much more like heavy-duty puffer jackets for the depths of winter, and it also includes a raincoat or two. Our next category is bags. Now this is a category that I feel like I very much know what I do and don't like when it comes to bags. And after having finally purged a couple of bags that you and I both know needed to go, I feel like I'm really happy with my bag collection now. 14 bags is obviously more than anybody needs, but I've got a good variety of styles and sizes and colors that I really enjoy wearing. I would say the majority of my bags fall into two categories, either kind of smaller crossbody sort of bags or backpacks. And then I suppose the third category, although these are also crossbodies, I do sort of think of them as separate, is my kind of nicer like leather sort of bags. A lot of these bags either I have gotten secondhand or I've had for years. I definitely know what I like when it comes to bags, and I do get a lot of wear out of my bags. So I'm happy with this collection as well. We're dropping down into single digits now with our next category, jewelry. I only have seven items logged, which is 3% of my wardrobe. And these are all necklaces. And to be honest with you, I don't really wear them very often. I do also have this necklace, which I never take off, so I haven't logged in Indyx. It's a necklace that I inherited from my grandmother a few years ago when she passed away, and I really like it. I also wear a ring that kind of like comes through that side of the family as well. And these are just my everyday jewelry items. I literally don't take them off, so I don't see the point in logging them every day. That seems a bit silly. So basically in Indyx, I've just logged my kind of like fun jewelry that I wear occasionally. And when I say occasionally, I mean it. At the end of the day, I really like this necklace and I think it looks really nice too. And like it's big enough to be like, some obvious jewelry. So I just rarely feel the need to swap it out. And honestly, I just don't think about it all that much. And then finally, we've got one pieces, which is obviously like dresses and stuff. I've got 6. I have 6 dresses, which is 3% of my wardrobe. And you know what's funny is that 5 of these dresses are from Variety Hour. Several of them I did purchase secondhand, but a few of them I got new. I just love Variety Hour dresses. I love how they fit me. I love the colors. So I love these. And then I do have one dress that is from Obus originally. So both Variety Hour and Obus are kind of like local indie shops that I like a lot. And I love my dresses. I really do. Obviously, there are some that I wear a whole lot more than others, but dresses as a whole, I really like wearing dresses, but they're not something that I wear like every day or even every week, to be honest with you. But when I'm in the mood for a dress or when I feel like dressing up, I love having some really fun, colorful dresses that I feel good in that fit me well. And I do feel like this category is pretty well rounded out for me. Just for the sake of completeness, I don't have any swimwear or other logged. I do have a couple of like swimwear items, but like I don't log them in my Indyx. And I'm not even sure what other would be. I don't know, I'll let you know if I ever figure it out. But moving on to a bit more of a detailed breakdown of what's in my wardrobe. Let's take a look at color, because you know how important color is to me. And I don't think this has changed a whole lot since the last time we checked in with this, and I think it's pretty predictable. If you've seen any of my videos, I feel like you could have picked this. 17% of my wardrobe is green, 17% is blue, and then we have lots of pinks, purples, and we do have quite a bit of black, which is always a little surprising to me, but there are plenty of items that have black in them, even if they're not entirely black. Then we've got a decent amount of red and orange, and then it all sort of tapers off from there when we move into the neutrals. As for source, where I've gotten these, 95% of my wardrobe I have purchased myself. 4% have been gifts, that's all just like from family and friends. And then 1%, which we know is only 2 items so far, is self-made. This is a brand new category. We didn't have this last time we checked in, and I am hopeful that this category will continue to expand as I make more and more stuff. A quick look at new versus secondhand. My wardrobe currently is 50-50, which I feel very good about. Obviously, I have plenty of new items that I have acquired over years that I hope to continue getting plenty of wear out of for as long as, they fit me and they continue to be wearable. But I have been pretty dedicated for the last year, and I hope to continue to be, in ensuring that the vast majority of anything that I bring into my wardrobe going forward is secondhand. If you're new here, in the second half of last year, I committed to purchasing only 3 brand new items in the second half of 2024. I was allowed to buy whatever I wanted secondhand, and I did, but I just kind of wanted to break out of purchasing new stuff, to be perfectly honest with you, because I was buying too much. And we already have so much stuff. We already have so much stuff on the planet. And that little challenge went really well. And so this year, I've committed to only purchasing 5 brand new items for the entirety of 2025. Again, I've allowed myself to purchase secondhand, although even that I've been wanting to kind of rein in the last month or two, just because I already have so much and I don't always need to be bringing in new things, even though the world kind of feels like it's telling me that I do. At least at this point in my life, I don't have ambitions of being somebody who never buys anything, but I definitely just want it to be a whole lot more reasonable and especially in the context of, you know, our inevitable environmental collapse. And I think what I had been doing prior to the last year was not normal. Maybe I kind of had been led to believe that it was normal, but I don't think it was. So essentially in the last year, I have been trying to recalibrate and create a new normal around clothing for myself. Anyway, moving on to the next category, it's just basically a seasonal breakdown of like what seasons each item is best for. Obviously, there's plenty of items that are useful across different seasons. So I don't know how useful I find this personally, but every season is kind of somewhere between 20 and 30%, which makes sense. Next up is a graph I'm a little bit nervous to show you, but you know, we're here for transparency. This is the longevity. So this is how long items have been in my wardrobe for. I didn't show you this last time because I had just set up Indyx, and so many of my items that like I couldn't remember when I got them, I just said like the day that I was logging them, and so it wasn't really accurate, and I still don't think this is entirely accurate, but I thought we could just take a look at it so we have a bit of a baseline moving forward now that I am completely set up in Indyx. So here it says 40% of my wardrobe I have acquired in the last year. Now I don't think that's true. I think there's plenty of things that I have simply logged in the last year that I didn't know when to put for when I did acquire them. Equally though, I know that I have acquired plenty of things. So I'm not saying that this is like a nothing number, or it should be a nothing number, but it's not 40%. I do think like a good chunk of this would be spread out over the other categories, which are for the 1 to 3 years is 43%. So that's saying that 43% of my wardrobe I have owned for 1 to 3 years. So while I think a decent amount of the less than 1 year stuff should be in this category, if I really went through it and tried to be as thorough as I could be, obviously 1 to 3 years is still not like a great time frame for owning all your stuff, but I will say that I think like a lot of people kind of during and then post-COVID, especially, not that we are post-COVID, but post-lockdowns, my body certainly changed in that time period. And so there was definitely just like a necessity of having to acquire a whole bunch of new stuff and get rid of a whole bunch of old stuff that just wasn't going to be working for me. And I think that is something that's a little tricky when, especially, I think a lot of us have bodies that change, but especially as someone who knows their body does fluctuate, it can be tricky to kind of hold yourself to these standards of like owning clothes. Like when people say, oh, I've had this since middle school. And I'm like, has your body not changed at all since you were like 10? I know mine has. I know mine has so much. And so obviously I think we should be aiming to keep our clothes for as long as possible, to take as good care of our clothes for as long as possible, and make them work for as long as we can. I think that is absolutely the aim and the goal. But I also think it's tricky when we get into realms of people almost bragging about having clothes from when they were children. Like, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy if that's the world that you live in. But obviously that's a standard that so many of us will never be able to achieve. Whether it's because we were pretty poor growing up and so a lot of our clothes weren't very good quality, and if they were handmade. That was the case for me and my family. Or also, for a lot of us, like our bodies just change a lot. Whether it's through weight gain or puberty or whatever the fuck, disability, so many different things. So life will throw us so many different things. And so I don't think it's realistic for me, at least at this stage in my life, to like have had a huge amount of my wardrobe from 10 plus years ago. Having said that, I also want to do my best to make sure that the clothes that I do have now will last me as long as possible. But I also have to have compassion and grace for myself if and when my body changes in the future, which is more than likely. So I don't know, I suppose all of that is a bit of a ramble, but I think this is an interesting and useful statistic, but I also don't want to put too much judgment into it, because I feel like that is then very quickly and easily tied into a judgment about our bodies too, and I don't want to be doing that. Anyway, 10% of my wardrobe we've listed as me owning for 3 to 5 years, and then 7% I have owned for more than 5 years. Again, I don't think these numbers are exact, but I think the further we go back, the more accurate they become. And obviously going forward, I hope that the under 1 year statistic continues to reduce and the others continue to grow, but life happens. We'll see. I don't know. I think it's fun as like hard and fast data and numbers can be. We also need some nuance. We need to allow some room for nuance here too. Oh, and I'm sorry I didn't say this earlier, but I did want to mention that Indyx is a free to download and use app. I'll leave a link in the description box to where you can sign up if you want. Like I said, it is free to download, to use, to upload all of your photos and to start tracking what you're wearing. Having said that, this data that I'm showing you is part of the Insider program. So having access to all of this data stuff is something that you pay for. Obviously not a necessity, not a requirement. I've decided that it's valuable for me, but you know, you can just use the app for free. Okay, now it's time for my favorite part of this whole thing, which is the utilization. So this is data around like what I'm using, what I'm not, how much I'm using of my wardrobe. So as of my 1-year anniversary of logging my outfits every day on Indyx, I think I've got pretty good utilization, to be perfectly honest with you. So in the last year of using this app every single day, I have logged that I have used 93% of the items in my wardrobe. Now, obviously we're always shooting for 100%, right? But to be fair to myself, this does include a handful of items that like are newer that I haven't got around to wearing, whether it's because they're just not seasonally appropriate. There are also a handful of items that I would describe as more sentimental. For example, like I have a scarf that my mum gave me that I just haven't really worn. One, because it's black, but also because two, I don't really find myself wearing big scarves all that much. I also have logged quite a few pairs of jeans that I have had for quite a few years that are all good quality jeans and that still fit me reasonably well, but I just don't really like wearing jeans at this season in my life. So there's definitely a handful of items that for whatever reason haven't gotten any rotation in the past year, which I think is a good sign that it's probably time to take a look and reassess those items. But I do think that 93% as a number is pretty good. And I think it only gets better because in the last 6 months, I've worn 82% of my wardrobe, which indicates to me that I am getting good rotation out of the vast majority of my wardrobe. And then it only gets better from there. In the last 3 months, I've worn 71% of my wardrobe. Obviously, this is so seasonally contextual. Like in the last 3 months, it's been pretty warm here in Melbourne. It's only started to get cool in the last week or two. And yet I have still worn 71% of my wardrobe. To me, that is a really, really good sign. And then in just the last month, I've worn 48. Almost half of my wardrobe I have worn in the last month alone. So yes, I've got quite a few items in my wardrobe at 200, but I've worn 48% of them in just the last 30 days. To me, this is a really good sign. Obviously, I will always be aiming for 100 for that year kind of project, but if I'm wearing more than half of my wardrobe, especially when my wardrobe varies quite a lot through the seasons, I'm still wearing half of it in just 30 days. I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with that. And I think it's a good indication that I have a wardrobe that I'm enjoying using and that I am finding practical for my lifestyle. So I'm really happy with this. Now let's take a look at my most worn items in the last year. And this was so obvious to me. Most of what we see here in the first kind of lot of items are obviously all accessories and my green bag. My green backpack has been my most worn item probably since I got it like 7 or 8 years ago. I love this thing. I wear it like probably half of the time, if not a third of the time, I'm using this backpack. From there, we have quite a lot of hats and shoes, which obviously I own fewer of, but is still the kind of item that I wear every day. My most worn item of clothing, like truly clothing, is this pair of pants. I think this one, the last time we checked in with this. Yeah, more bags, more shoes. This is kind of the sort of stuff that I'm wearing very regularly. This button-up top, I bought secondhand at a consignment store in Brisbane, and I just got so much wear out of it, especially in those on those cooler summer mornings when we were going for bird walks. Just such a good lightweight layering piece for me. Then taking a quick look at my least worn items, it's all items that are pretty new for me logging into Indyx, or they're either like special occasion things, or I would describe them as more sentimental things, or like I said, a couple of pairs of jeans that I just don't really want to wear at the moment. I'm not enjoying wearing jeans physically, aesthetically. And honestly, taking a look at this, I did screenshot this on the 16th of May, and I'm only now just getting a chance to film this on the 13th of June. So it's been another month, and quite a few of these items in this least worn category were more winter items that I had thrifted over the summer and autumn period. And I have since worn them in the last month because it's finally actually getting cold in Melbourne. So I have high hopes that the vast majority of these items that have 0 wears in the last year will get wear from me. Then taking a look at like how much wear I'm getting out of each category, bags is obviously the number one. And I think that is heavily skewed, especially by the green bag, but just generally by the bags that I tend to wear a lot. Because like I wear a bag pretty much every day. And like, yeah, I've got a decent amount of bags, but it's not like I have 76 of them like I do with tops. I think the rest of this chart makes sense. Like the kind of things that you wear every day that I have fewer of, obviously are going to get the more average number of wears. Whereas things like one pieces, dresses that I just don't wear all that often, or things like tops and bottoms that I have a lot of, but that I also like switching up quite a lot, they're the things that get fewer number of wears on average. Now taking a look at the color in terms of what I actually wear, I think this is interesting in comparison to what I actually own. Green. Green is still number one, but it's like kind of extended its margin. I love wearing green. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Green is my neutral. Green is my version of black. To me, it's just such a perfect neutral. I mean, like if you look out in nature, it's kind of one of the colors that we see a lot. So I think it feels very natural to the eye, but also it's such a cool color and it goes with so many things so well. And it especially goes well with a lot of the colors that I enjoy wearing. I'm particularly thinking of pinks and purples. I think pinks and purples are my favorite, especially tops to wear. I think those are the colors that look best on me. And so green is just such a perfect color to pair them with. However, it does say that brown is my next most commonly worn color. And I do think that this is because quite a few of the items that I do get a lot of wear out of, do kind of fall into this brand tan sort of category. I don't have a lot of them, but the ones that I do have, I love and I do get a lot of wear out of. I suppose, again, brown obviously is a neutral, but to me, I think it's a much easier neutral than such a harsh color like black. Moving from there, my other top worn colors are not neutral at all. Pinks, orange, purple and blue. And then again, we sort of taper off from there. Now, the next lot of data that we get from Indyx is our investment. So this is talk of money. As with last time, I don't feel comfortable showing you like the dollar value, just because I think this is so personal. And as much as I am trying to be transparent with you, I just don't think I'm brave enough for that on the internet. However, what I do feel comfortable sharing with you is like the percentage rather than the dollar value. So for example, here we have spend by category within the wardrobe, which I think is really useful to see. And so here we can see that even though I have a lot more tops than I have pants, I spend roughly the same amount on tops and pants as a category. I guess tops, especially t-shirts and stuff, do tend to be a bit cheaper, but I think especially I find it quite easy to thrift tops, whereas I find it a bit harder to thrift bottoms. I do have a lot of secondhand bottoms, but most of those, they're more likely to come from places like Depop and eBay, whereas tops secondhand are more likely to come from places like Savers and Vinnies. Shoes and outerwear are the next two categories, and they're also basically tied. Again, I think these are categories that I don't have as many of as I do tops and bottoms, but they're the kind of category that I tend to be willing to invest in. As I mentioned, shoes, I need good quality shoes in order to be comfortable and to minimize the amount of chronic pain that I experience, which is obviously going to be a priority in my life. And then outerwear, honestly kind of a survival thing, you know? Maybe not literally in a place like Melbourne, especially as I'm somebody who's housed, but definitely more in the need category rather than maybe just like frivolous fun category. Feels a bit more important to me to have the right kind of items in outerwear to be comfortable for the temperature that we have and the weather that we're having. And so again, that's something that if I'm not able to get secondhand is something I'm willing to invest in. And then bags, one piece, accessories, jewelry kind of taper off from there. I think it makes sense. I don't own as many of these things. And I mean, obviously bags can be something notoriously that people spend a lot of money on. I have a couple of nice bags. Like I have 2 Coach bags, but both of them were purchased secondhand. And then I also have a really lovely Oroton bag, but that was given to me as a gift by my best friend. So it's not that I'm not willing to spend a bit of money on a nice bag, but I'm not willing to spend a lot of money on a nice bag. I'm really not. I like bags, but I'm much more interested in them being like practical for me, and I don't need a fancy $1,000 bag for that to happen. So that is all the data, my friends. That's all the data I have for you around my wardrobe. And I have always found this so useful and illuminating. I think it's really easy to have lots of beliefs and assumptions around what we do own and what we do or don't use. But seeing it in cold, hard numbers, even though obviously we need to bring in a bit of nuance and compassion to those numbers sometimes, seeing it in cold, hard numbers, I think is just so useful for giving us a sense of reality rather than imagination or fantasy. So obviously I'm an Indyx fan. I really love using Indyx on a daily basis. I also really enjoy using a whole bunch of their services, which we've done a whole bunch of styling with Indyx. I'll leave playlists above for you if you've missed those. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this app and I love the way that the app's set up. But I think more than the app itself, I'm a big fan of this process of getting to know my wardrobe as it is and kind of considering it on a daily basis and getting some cold hard facts, statistics around it. I think this whole process of cataloging my wardrobe and tracking what I wear has been so helpful for me. It's been helpful in kind of recognizing that I was a little out of hand when it comes to shopping. It was helpful in identifying where and when I end up shopping and helping me then move on to why. It's been showing me very literally like how cool my wardrobe is and like highlighting that there really isn't a whole lot of gaps here that I need to fill. It's been helping me so much with realigning with my values and sorting out my priorities when it comes to my wardrobe. And then also it's really helped with developing and kind of really solidifying my own personal style, which, as I've spoken about, has long been colorful and playful. But I think spending this intentional time with my wardrobe on a daily basis and kind of really reflecting on what I'm wearing and what I feel like wearing on a daily basis has helped me be more adventurous in exploring different combinations, and it's helped me feel more sure in myself and my style. Like, even just by being able to go through and like take a look at the last month and identify patterns and to really reflect on what did and didn't work, you know, all of this stuff. It's not that I'm always thinking about my wardrobe and my clothes, but just thinking about it a little bit more than I was before. And with the help of Indyx and with cataloging a wardrobe, it's just been so beneficial for me in so many different ways. One thing I did want to address right here at the end is that I have received plenty of questions about wearing versus Indyx, because I did originally, like 2 years ago, catalog my wardrobe over on wearing. And I did start like logging my outfits and everything for several months over there. And so I've had plenty of questions, obviously, about like why I made the change to Indyx. And ultimately, I don't think it really matters how you catalog your wardrobe and track this stuff. If you're interested in doing it, you can do it on a spreadsheet, you know, like people do it in Canva. If you prefer wearing and it works for you, great. Like, I think it's a great app. And fundamentally, it does so many of the same things. So it's not that I'm anti-wearing at all. In fact, I think the colors on wearing are really fun. The reason I made the switch, and ultimately I didn't necessarily make the switch. Instead, I ended up like stopping using wearing because I found it so frustrating. And it wasn't until I started hearing about Indyx that I figured I would try again with a new app. The reason I found wearing so frustrating for me personally is just because it crashed on me all the time. Like, I'd be in the middle of making an outfit and it would just crash. And so then I'd have to start all over again. I'd be trying to add a new item to my wardrobe and it would crash. Like, it was just crashing multiple times a day. And I think I've only ever had Indyx crash on me maybe once in the year that I've been using it. So honestly, it's just that reliability, that stability. Both apps are fine. Both apps do what they say they do on the tin. Obviously, there's an aesthetic difference between the two of them. But beyond that, like, it really is just personal preference. All I know is that for me, the actual user experience was completely ruined by that happening so many times when I was trying to use it daily. So that's why I left wearing. There's no like tea here. It just wasn't practical for me. And so if you're looking to start cataloging your wardrobe, I will say that it is definitely a big upfront time investment. And that's just a reality. There's no getting around that. Obviously, there's things that you can do, like maybe doing like logging clothes and taking photos in batches, or only doing the clothes that you're actively wearing right now and doing it by season, things like that. Like, you can kind of break the task down, but ultimately the reality is you still need to take tens, hundreds of photos and take the time to upload them and put the data in. And that is time consuming. It's just a reality. But if you have an interest in using this kind of service and you think you will, it's really, really worth the upfront time investment, I think. Because once you've done that, like, there's really not a whole lot of upkeep. Besides, if you get new items, you have to take a new photo. But like, that's quite easy. Taking 1 or 2 photos is a whole lot easier than taking 200. And other than that, it's just like logging what you wear every day. So I highly recommend cataloging and tracking your wardrobe if it's something that you're interested in. Whether you use Indyx or a different kind of platform, different app, or just an entirely different process, I don't think really matters. I do think this kind of interaction with your closet and your wardrobe, especially for those of us who like clothes and who like to shop, I think this can be eye-opening and really, like I said, for myself, really help you realign your priorities with your values. Also, it's just fun. It's also just a whole lot of fun. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new here and you've made it all the way to the end, I mean, is it too bold of me to ask you to subscribe? If you've lasted this long, I feel like you're probably going to enjoy yourself on this channel, so I reckon you should. I do make plenty of clothing, thrifting, Indyx-related content, but there is also plenty of variety here on this channel. After all, it is the spice of life. You really never do know what you're going to get here on this channel, but I hope if you do decide to stick around, I hope you enjoy your time here. As always, a huge thank you to my lovely patrons over on Patreon, and especially a big thank you to Livia, Belinda, and Haley. But that's all from me this week. I will see you again next week. Until then, so much love. Bye.